Welcome to the Business Legends Podcast, where we interview business leaders and entrepreneurs so that you can learn from their mistakes, grow your own inspiration, and pump up your bottom line. I'm the host of the show, Reece and along with my co-host, he's a good friend of mine, the CEO of Business Marketing Solutions Group, Mr. Christian Webb. Say what's up.
Let's sanitize the world today.
Sanitizing the world. Don't forget, we are along with the greatest videographer of all time, Mr. David Woodruff with Genesis Film TV.
A.K.A. David.
And they fed me too much coffee. The first intro that I did for the show, Christian said it was 2 weeks, so now you're going to get the obnoxious Reece. Congratulations. He's gotten me there. We have a very special guest today that's been putting up with us all morning for some reason, Mr. Thomas Henning with Stratus Building Solutions. Stratus Building Solutions is a leading commercial cleaning franchise company providing the most comprehensive green janitorial service, building and office cleaning services in the industry, allowing business owners the opportunity to provide a healthier environment for their customers and employees. Mr. Thomas, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, it's been quite a morning learning all about your super top secrets on how you make things clean and make it a wonderful place for people to work and sanitize environments. But let's kind of start at the beginning. How did you get into this industry?
You know, it's a good question. How I got into the industry is quite a personal story. Just to jump right to it, my wife had meningitis back in 2018 after coming from a trip overseas, and you know, she was just going through this recovery and started to think about and exploring other ways to grow and identify new business opportunities, and looked at this business model from Stratus and thought, wow, what an exciting business model. And next thing you know, I'm starting up a Stratus organization. Next day.
You know, it's kind of interesting how sometimes people are called to do things. And, you know, some people choose to do things, they follow their passions and pursuits. And other times, much like in your story, something happens where it's just like, you know, there's this need that you identify, and then all of a sudden, maybe from other different experiences in your life, you know, you were a chemical engineer before that. So maybe, you know, you were feeling that it was time for a career shift, and then all of a sudden the pieces just kind of fall where they may, and go figure. Now, I know you didn't hope for COVID to happen, but how has COVID affected your work?
I'm almost thinking he broke the glass on this one.
Did you let out the Pandora's box of COVID? Like, what happened with this? How did that work?
You know, my friends and colleagues I've worked with in the past always say, wow, you were a genius to figure that out. I wished I had that much foresight to say, wow, get into a cleaning and disinfecting company right before a pandemic hit. I wished I was that good. I think I am sometimes. But.
Sometimes, yeah.
You know what? The pandemic is one of those things that we've had to deal with and had to shift our business very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the cool thing with Stratus is we've been doing disinfecting since the very beginning. So It wasn't anything new for us.
Yep.
It was just ramping up and being able to support the businesses around in the Charlotte area.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was kind of shifting our business focus and really trying to get the environments where people are working in very healthy and very safe very quickly.
Yeah. It's so interesting. You know, you think about you don't even know what to believe anymore when you see the news or the media or whatever else, and you see, you know, whatever they're talking about with COVID. How lethal is it? How infectious is it? How dangerous is it? But especially from your perspective and your business, no matter what, it's making people a little bit more aware of what's going on in their surroundings. You know, maybe they think twice before touching this tabletop and then eating a French fry or something like that. You know.
You know, I think it's a combination. I think people overall are just being more aware of keeping their spaces healthy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about keeping it clean and keeping it disinfected.
Yep.
And I think it's raised awareness. You go back to the basics. If we wash our hands, that's a major contributing factor to disease spread. So wash your hands.
Yeah.
And so we encourage everyone to do that. Right now, we're dealing in an environment where we have to watch our distance.
Yeah.
So it's not just washing hands, but watch your distance. And yes, we do have to wear a mask. You have to do that from time to time.
So. I bet starting a company after your wife was in such of a need of something like this gets you some major brownie points.
You know, it does. Let's just say she was always supportive. Wasn't the biggest fan at the beginning. She's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day, she has been my rock. She's been an absolute major supporter of what we're doing, the backbone of kind of the motivating and how we work with companies out there, and she happens to be pretty fantastic when it comes to marketing and communication. So,
did you hear that? He said fantastic.
Fantastic. What's her name? Do we need to give her a shout out on the show, by the way?
Thomas Henning.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah. You got it going on. It's great when you have families that contribute to business. I mean, my credit to Christian's wife that not only puts up with him, God only knows how she does that, but puts up with me, and all of our endeavors and stuff. But
Just bookkeeping.
Yeah, which God only knows. I mean, we may or may not expense too many things, but that's not.
What'd you say the other day? Fireworks are not a business expense.
This is this is what I said to Kayla. She goes, Reece, fireworks are not a business expense. And I looked at her dead in the eye and I said, well, not with that attitude, they're not.
I would respond to that and say the cleanup party is, so that's not a problem.
There you go, the cleanup part. You got it going on. You got to. We might take a little bit too much cushion with that, but that's a tale told for another time. So cleaning stuff. Let's talk to the fresh up and coming entrepreneurs. That's the part that I always like to at least address somebody that's thinking about taking that plunge and getting into business for themselves. We'll talk a little bit about business, but whenever somebody has a business, what types of things can they do to just make their business a little bit healthier, or a little bit healthier is probably a wrong word, but a little bit more sanitized? How do they look out for their employees or themselves in their workplace?
I think the first thing to really think about when it comes to that is, number one, what are you doing to keep your building clean? Mm-hmm. So I haven't started talking about sanitizing, just clean.
Yeah.
It's more than just taking out trash. It's more than just wiping the counter. But what are you doing on a routine basis to really keep your facility clean?
Yeah.
And I think companies need to think about, when they look at their service providers and commercial cleaning companies, are they really using products to keep it clean?
Sure.
So that's number one. Number two, what types of products are you using? Mm-hmm. We still fundamentally believe and have proven that using green cleaning products work. You don't have to have some harsh chemicals to clean your facility, even during the pandemic. And then the other piece is, what are you doing from a disinfecting standpoint? What are you doing when there's, the times during flu season or during a pandemic? How are you keeping that facility safe from a preventative standpoint? And also when you have an outbreak, like a COVID exposure, what are you doing there?
Yeah.
So I think planning and really giving some thought to that goes a long way. The expense of that is nowhere near as great as when an employee is not able to work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that cost is astronomically high. We lose billions of dollars every year because people can't work.
Yep.
And you lose that productivity.
Yeah.
So that planning and strategy is something that everyone needs to think about.
Yeah, I think about opportunity cost a lot, and I'll never forget, actually, back in November, I can't ever prove it, but I'm going to make Christian take a COVID antibody test because I'm convinced he had COVID back in November. His words to me verbatim were, "Man, I have this flu that I just can't shake." That's what he said, and he was, him and I, luckily, we've taken relatively good care of our bodies, and we're hardly ever sick. And he was sick for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And in that 2 week period, I was like, you're not getting around me. Like, you better I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, so I'm like, dude, until you're done coughing, we can talk on the phone or meet virtually or whatever, and we kind of had it going on from there. But it's a very scary thing, how much business we lose out on just when somebody's sick. There's just a lot to
Actually,
it,
right now it's crazy for business owners. Like even our business, we have really hardworking employees, but every time they have a fever, because they're so conscious of it, they're like, I'm going to stay home today because I'm running 99.8.
Yeah.
And used to, people work through that stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
Which
sure.
might or might not be the good choice, but.
Yeah.
I think businesses have to get a little bit more flexible with their business models.
Yeah.
You want people to come in and encourage them to do a great job, but when they're feeling ill or they're having a temperature, you have to give them the flexibility of working remote.
Yep.
And
we do.
Many companies are faced with that right now. They hadn't planned for it,
right,
but it just happened. And I think with the right strategy, businesses can continue running effectively when they're having or we're dealing with a pandemic.
Yeah. It's really scary. It's really scary of how quickly things had to change. And, you think about like the shot heard around the world, or the straw that broke the camel's back in this COVID situation, because all these businesses, not only are they required now to adapt, but they had to do it quick. All of a sudden we have to stay at home, and what happens if you have to stay at home for 6 weeks? Like, how does your business continue, type of thing? So it's just really interesting stuff, man. How people are adapting to this virus, adapting to the times, adapting with cleanliness environments and stuff. Not to jump too far off the page here, but has there been any excellent selling point for you about having a clean facility? This is just probably my own curiosity, but I always think about, for example, I shop for my groceries at Harris Teeter, right? Harris Teeter is always very, very clean inside. And I've been shopping religiously.
It looks clean.
Yeah, well, yeah, it looks clean, right, sure. But, I've been shopping religiously at Harris Teeter now for 10 years or something, even though I know full well that I can get, the same product much cheaper at a different different grocery store or something. Is there any attributable evidence about, clean facilities and higher revenues coming in or something like that?
People want to go places where they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And if they know companies like Harris Teeter, and I know they do a good job, especially every evening, closing earlier now,
Yep.
With more hours spent on disinfecting and cleaning. Many companies are doing that.
Sure.
But employers and people want to shop and go places where they feel that the companies are actually doing everything they can to keep that environment healthy and safe.
Yeah.
And people will go there.
Yep.
They're not, the opportunity cost of going someplace and catching a virus or a bug is far greater than, I'm going to go to this place here because I know that they have a great cleaning protocol. Facilities that Stratus disinfect, we put the little certificate up there that says this facility's been cleaned and disinfected by Stratus Building Solutions.
Yeah.
Is it something that drives more business? I would say that when people see that, they feel a little bit more comfortable seeing that and knowing that that business is doing everything it can to disinfect today.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, if y'all marketed the fact that the Stratus tag means this has been disinfected,
that's probably a huge
to the consumer, that this is what this means, that would light it on fire.
Yeah, that's a good note.
But I didn't know that, so if I knew that Stratus meant this place had just got disinfected and this is safe for my low immune system wife to go into, I'm going to be like, hey, babe, why don't you go to Harris Teeter instead of Publix?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good point. We get so busy in just making that environment healthy that, we're not trying to do this necessarily to promote the business and drive it that way. It's about doing the right things to care for people.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got into this business, it was being able to have an impact and make a difference. And we're fortunate during this time to be able to help people feel safe.
Yeah.
Help companies stay in business, especially the essential ones. And but consumers are starting to notice that tag.
The more selfish motivations are for marketers like us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you keep
think about
dreaming.
business,
We'll hold the selfish.
Yeah,
side,
we'll think about the dollars.
All right.
We'll think about the dollars. Yeah, there you go.
I'll keep dreaming and let you drive that.
There you go. Perfect. I'll tell you what. You and Christian get together and dream away, and then approach Reece, because that's the way that our company works.
Sounds good.
He'll
Basically
come
the dreamer.
Yeah.
And he does it.
Yeah, I'm the lassoer. Whenever his head's up in the clouds, I'm like, hey, get down here.
I would probably have to bring the brains in. I bring Dawn in and let her work with Christian.
perfect.
I'll have this thing all over the place.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We'll do that.
Oh yeah, that's
I'll be like, how dare you touch the marketing?
yeah. Like you better get off that, Thomas, for sure.
So what made you choose a franchise?
It's interesting. I didn't necessarily start looking at kind of a franchise organization when I started looking for the next opportunity. I really was trying to figure out what could I do and leverage my skill set, but also help companies and help people. And so I kind of got the best of both worlds with Stratus. It's a very unique model that on the one side, I help companies look their best and build their brand.
Sure.
So when their customers come in, they say, wow, this is a great place. But when their employees come in, they feel safe and feel comfortable and they like working there. On the other side, I get the chance to work with future business owners. So people want to start their own business, whether they want to be independent or just make extra money. I help set them up in business so that they actually service these customers.
Yeah.
The advantage of doing that is you're helping the customers, but you're also helping a service provider provide for his family or go totally independent on their own.
Yeah. It's like the best of both worlds. It's a win-win. It's a
it
very
really
rare
is.
win-win in the world,
It's very unique. I get a chance, again, to help people on both sides. And, I hate to say I sit in the middle, but it's kind of a fun spot to be in.
Sure.
When
everyone's winning, it's super fun.
When everyone's winning. When someone knocks on your door and says, hey, Thomas, we started this business and you know what? I'm able to go full-time at this.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
Or when you get a customer that calls you and said, thank you for your help in keeping our facilities and employees safe.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good feeling. And so we've had a couple of those that have come through in the last 4 to 5 months, and it's just kind of nice that you're actually able to do something to help people.
Yeah.
So, I get to have fun.
Yeah.
I meet different people from all walks of life, from all countries, and I get a chance to work with customers and businesses, all kinds of businesses, from healthcare to paper manufacturers to you name it. We work with everyone.
That's tremendous. One of the things that you said, a minute ago was about business environment. And I love talking about business environment. It's one of those things that just fascinates me. We had a great guest on our show. It was probably episode 15 or something. His name's Yazan Al-Hakim. And he owns the, what is it? It's the sign place off Independence. I don't know. Follow the podcast. But anyways, his whole thing was talking about how Fast Signs is what he owns. He talks about how he creates this business environment, and he'll actually help business owners, especially new ones, when they're setting up a retail space or setting up like a new space, and help them with their environment. And so, you know, he talks about branding things and, you know, maybe having a business marketing solutions group decal on the wall, or maybe this, you know, ESPN 7:30 a.m. decal right here. Like, what's the point in spending money on this stuff? But it's creating the environment, you know, and especially now since everybody seems just a little bit more fascinated by their health or concerned about their health. I mean, you know, something like having that certificate, or the fact that you're able to provide confidence for employees, customers, everything like that. It's definitely going to soften the barriers between people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, you need to call the corporate Stratus. And
yeah, but listen,
why are we not putting
I want some giant
tag?
plaques. I want giant plaques. You should get big trophies.
Yeah.
You know, giant. This is a Stratus certified, gigantic.
Why are we doing a little badge?
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing is we're doing that.
Yeah.
I think on the corporate,
need a trophy.
The enterprise-wide, we're actually doing that. I'm smiling right now. But you're spot on. We're actually doing that. But, you know, part of what we do at Stratus, especially in the Charlotte region, we help companies with their strategies. That's not something we charge them for.
Yeah.
You know, what are you doing with, I hate to use the word pandemic plan, but what are you doing with your cleaning and disinfecting strategy? How does that help? And then on the other side, because of my background, I probably get involved with their business sometimes, providing advice on
consulting and stuff.
It's just free consulting, but it's all about helping someone else.
Yeah.
And but there have been several companies we talked to about, you know, how to manage your business differently, not just with cleaning and disinfecting.
For sure.
And so we share that way, and it's amazing what business owners share with each other and how we learn from each other.
It is. We when all this started, when the COVID stuff started, you know, Christian and I sat down, and obviously we had to stay at home. We're very fortunate in the sense that wherever we're at, if we have a computer and internet, we can pretty much work and get done the same amount of stuff. Obviously, a faster internet is better and a better computer is better. But outside of that, I mean, I can work from my laptop virtually anywhere. So can our campaign managers. You know, so we let them take their devices home.
Except for on a snowboarding trip, we've tried.
Except on a snowboarding trip, that's
we tried for 10 seconds and gave up.
Just gave up
going.
Snowboard.
Yeah.
We didn't give it that good of an effort, to be honest. But
we opened it didn't work.
I'm just proud of the fact that I brought my laptop. So you know, that's neither here nor there. Anyways, but you know, we sat down with our employees and we said, you know, hey, you know, we fancy ourselves somewhat decent managers, at least sometimes, and we sat down with them. We said, hey, you know, what do you guys want to see here? You know, how can we make sure that our environment, especially as we're getting back in the office, you know, we're in close proximities to each other. You know, here's some of my ideas. One of the things is, you know, we have hand sanitizer on every single desk. I know it's simple, but it's one of those things that, like, we want you to be comfortable here at the office type of thing. You know, and we probably go a little bit too far with comfortability. Like, I have like a blanket in my office when I get cold and stuff, and like, you know, whatever else. But it's very important. You know, it's very important to have an environment where your customers and your employees are safe, especially if you're not customer facing. You know, have you done anything? Has there been anything maybe outside of the box as far as when you've consulted some of these companies that you've done to help them provide an environment that maybe is something that you wouldn't have thought about before Stratus?
You know, we've done a few things, from things as simple as removing doorknobs where they have foot pedals where people can open and close doors with their feet.
Yeah.
That sounds very simple, but it's a way to keep them from touching things that they would normally touch.
Right. That's interesting.
The emphasis on hotspots, when we call hotspots keyboards, things you touch, your purses, your phones, and things of that nature. Just being very creative about how to keep that clean and just being mindful of it. But I think the most important thing is getting people to really understand that washing your hands is very important.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Don't take it for granted. Getting people to think about distancing, at least through this period of time when we try to figure out how to manage this pandemic.
Yeah.
And the other part is just getting people comfortable and really thinking about sanitation. Some of the things we think about that most people don't is change your ink pens. When you come into a facility and someone's signing in,
I've never thought about that.
People use the same ink pen. Well, you know, you might want to toss that or disinfect it.
Yeah, especially if 100 people have touched the pen or
basic
whatever.
Stuff like that. Hand sanitizer is always good and paramount because people don't want to wear gloves all the time.
Right.
But just the basics. I mean, again, it's wash your hands, watch your distance, wear a mask. And people are reluctant to wear a mask at times, but it's a necessary thing right now.
Sure.
But those are the little things that come up to mind that are top of mind right now in terms of keeping clean.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, it's something that I'm so glad I asked that, because I take a lot of these things for granted. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that either. But Mike Orzik was a great friend of mine, a great guest in the show. He's like episode 5 or something. Follow the podcast anyway. We
I will follow the podcast from now on.
Yeah. So he was talking about promotional products as well, and Promotion Magic is his company. He does everything branded, much like Yazan does as well. But he was talking about pins. And, he was advocating for virtually every business to have, not junky pins either, but having something that people actually want to steal. That's what he was talking about. How, if your pin's nice enough, people will walk home with it, and then you've essentially branded yourself for free. But he says the average pin will change hands 7 times.
It's kind of gross now that we know.
Yeah, super gross.
So you imagine the average pen changes hands 7 times. The average human probably touches their face more than 7 times a minute.
At least, yeah.
So, 7 times 7, I mean, you got a lot of germs that can potentially transfer.
Yeah.
It's awareness. It's simple things that we have taken for granted. I think it's going to make us an overall healthier, better society.
Yeah, for sure.
But we have to get to a point where we're comfortable again.
Yeah.
Because right now it's a new, kind of awkward sometimes way of living right now.
Wearing a mask that doesn't protect anything is not doing much all day long.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, there are proper ways to wear a mask.
Right.
And there are improper ways to wear it.
Yeah.
So I think
we've all seen the chin straps, I'm pretty attached to my beard, but, I don't think that my beard needs a mask.
So is Stratus researching any, autonomous sanitation? Anything like that?
Our teams look at all types of technologies, and so there's autonomous sanitation equipment out there right now. We're not necessarily bringing them in-house, but we're looking at technology, number one, to really provide advice to people we work with, especially large organizations that have, hundreds of thousands of square feet of production space.
Yeah.
And so in a situation like that, having something that's going around automatically sanitizing the air or a UV light on it that's cleaning certain stations is going to be very powerful.
Yeah.
And so we look for those things to try to offer advice, to stay on the cutting edge.
Sure.
Stratus is also part of the U.S. Green Build Council, so we're always on the cutting edge of environmentally healthy products that will benefit all of us. And so we look for those things. I've got a good colleague of mine that works for a company called Big Ass Fans.
Big Ass Fans, yeah.
And, they've got a new product out, so shout out to them, where they've got this large fan with a UVC light on it. And so those kinds of technologies are going to find their way into businesses, and they're going to ultimately find their ways into homes to just keep the environment healthy as possible.
Yeah. When Christian and I met, we were actually we met working in the nightlife, but then after that we also worked together as personal trainers. So when I say we were conjoined at the hip, I mean we've literally been working in different careers together for a decade now. But when we were personal trainers, I was in grad school and I did this research project on basically the whole premise of it was the reason that your corporation should buy you personal training, right? And the research shows and repeats over and over and over again that even at the huge expense of something like personal training, if you allot your employee $300 a month for personal training, which is 5 sessions or something usually, then typically speaking, the employee will be healthier, they'll be more health conscious, and in the long term, the corporation will save money on its health insurance. So you can only imagine how hiring on a company like Stratus, where you're disinfecting things. If Christian's out sick for a day, we lose a bunch. And we lose a bunch because then I have to do his job, and I'm not as good at doing Christian's job as Christian is.
Did we talk about opportunity cost once?
Yeah, opportunity cost. No, exactly. So if
Reece, you're saying I'm worth a lot.
You
said that
for our company
on record.
For our company, definitely. But for our relationship,
I'm gonna frame that one segment on my Facebook
one
page.
segment. It's just gonna be like the trial.
Segment.
He does things intentionally to irritate the hell out of me. By the way, we prank each other at the office. This is way outside of the norm here. But he'll buy like buttons and prank me with stuff, and so I'll sit back down in my chair or whatever, and it'll just be like have you seen the Staples button? Yes. That was easy. So I'll sit down, and it's actually one that you can record or whatever, and it'll just say something stupid just to fire me up for the day. And I'm pretty easy to fire up if you couldn't tell at this point. But anyway, let's shift gears. Let's talk about up-and-coming entrepreneurs. So, I love to talk about people that want to take the plunge, that don't want to work. Instead of working for a company for 40 hours a week, they want to work for themselves for 80 hours a week and make half the money and be twice as stressed. So
you don't get to work 20 hours as a business owner?
I mean, depends on your business. Yeah, depends on your business. Depends on your business. So let's talk about somebody, not necessarily somebody that wants to start competing with you and being in the cleaning sanitization services or anything, but what's the process like, in your opinion, to take that plunge? What was it like for you? Obviously, you were called, your wife had meningitis, and then it somewhat fell into place type of thing. But what's the process like for you? What would you suggest for somebody that's entering that?
First, I recommend someone having an open mind. Okay. So once you start the process of trying to identify what business you want, you may have in your mind what you think you want. Be open-minded to understanding business models. When I started this, Stratus Building Solutions came up, and I saw it the first time and thought, okay, it's cleaning and sanitization. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about it. But it wasn't until I got into the business model and really understand that it provided a unique way of doing business for us that I hadn't necessarily experienced before, being able to help both sides of the equation of companies and people trying to start their own company.
Like the middleman, kind of.
Yeah, I hate to use middleman, but you're kind of like the person that's in the middle there. So to speak.
I was like, I can't come up with another word, so sorry, man.
But I think being open-minded is important. Second is really try to find things that allow you to leverage your current capabilities, but stretch you. Mm-hmm. If you're only going to find a company that supports the skill set you currently have versus help you develop new ones, you'll be bored to tears.
Sure.
At least I was going to be. And then start planning. And, I've had friends that have started their own businesses, have more than one idea. Mm-hmm. If you can, start more than one business at a time. It's hard to do,
sure,
but have more than one idea to start with, because, the odds of success of one business is very, very challenging. It's very low in terms of being successful with one business. But if you have multiple ideas and multiple businesses you want to start, I think that's a plus.
Typically one thing kind of takes over. And we talk about business pivoting a lot. And it's very interesting because when I first joined Business Marketing Solutions Group, well, actually, the full story, when Christian started this by himself, and at the time he was doing sales training for companies, got into marketing from it because, once a company has sales, how do you keep them on as customers? As well, you're starting to provide them leads that they can sell. And so at the time, just based on our background, personal training, we were working a lot with gyms. And so since we've pivoted into multiple different facets of industries and specialized in certain industries and stuff.
Now some of our largest customers are like lawyers.
Yeah. And it just kind of evolved into that. But that's kind of like, if I'm speaking to up-and-coming entrepreneurs, that's that open-minded perspective,
And I think the ability to pivot is important. Having a strategy is great, but if you have a strategy that's only one path of success,
it better work.
or you're doomed to fail.
Yeah.
Being able to pivot, and no one would expect being able to pivot very quickly during a pandemic, but your strategies have to be nimble.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say, you're going to work hard.
Yeah. Work ethic.
You've got to have a work ethic that this is my company, this is my business, and I'm going to drive it hard. And I'm going to do more than 40 hours a week. But it's one of the most rewarding things you can do.
Sure.
When I started this business, there are days the phone didn't ring for a week.
Yeah.
And you're sitting like, what have I done?
Yeah.
But at the same time, my mind was still racing on what can I do? How can I grow this business? The other thing I would say is identify those cash flow triggers. Cash is important in any business, and if you can get sustainable cash flow, you can survive. You will eventually get to a point where your business is thriving. Many companies fail because they don't have a cash flow.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out what's that trigger for cash flow, I didn't say it was all growth.
Yeah.
But if you can find that cash flow trigger, that allows you to reinvest in the business, allow you to put growth resources in place. And so,
or more marketing, or
marketing resources to get your name out there.
Follow the podcast.
Podcast.
Yeah, you got it.
But I think that's the open-mindedness and the strategies and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Have fun, and then go find someone that's doing it better. Don't be afraid to ask someone for advice. And if you're not willing to learn and listen, you will fail.
Yeah.
I seek advice from people from different industries. In my industry, I talk with competitors. And they're like, why are you talking to me? Well, you know what? If we make this entire business better in the industry, it helps all of us.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't be afraid to chat with competitors, not in the wrong way, but just learning. How do we help? Because if I have someone that I'm competing with that's doing a bad job cleaning and disinfecting, it makes it difficult for someone to say, well, why should I trust Stratus?
Yeah.
Because your industry is known for not doing a good job.
Yeah, it's particularly challenging when you have one career ago, I was in the supplement industry, and the supplement industry is victim to this probably more than any other industry, in my opinion, where every product, even if it has the same ingredients, bashes every single other product. And so you instill this customer, whatever, disconfidence or unconfidence or whatever the word happens to be, like this, this fear of like what's right and what's wrong type of thing. I think you see this a lot with the COVID stuff, where you have all this conflicting information. Do masks work? Do masks not work? Does hand sanitizer work? Does it not work? And all the while, people just need to know the basics. Wash your hands. Stay away from each other. Kind of have those types of things. With Stratus and when you're comparing or talking to your competitors, however you want to phrase that, do you ever find that maybe 80% of your businesses overlap and there's 20% that don't, and then all of a sudden you can start referring each other business, even though technically you're kind of in a competitive environment?
We do see that sometimes.
Sure.
I compete with a lot of different companies in this area. And when I go into customers ask me, well, what are you going to do differently from here?
Yeah.
I'll tell them, this is what Stratus does.
Yeah.
This is our process. This is how we do it. And these are the things we look for. I think one of the worst things you can do is go and say why someone's worse.
Right.
Just show what value you bring to that company.
Yeah.
And really talk about the Stratus way.
Yeah.
And so when we walk in, here's the Stratus difference.
That's what we do. Yeah.
And this is why we bring something to the table that others do not.
Sure.
And that's the biggest thing that you work on. When you go into a place that's poorly managed, you don't necessarily point out the person. You say, well, these are the things that we do to improve your facility.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot more fun.
Oh, I bet.
We just don't.
Keeping things positive.
Our philosophy is about driving growth and improving these companies and
Yeah.
the workplace for their employees as well. And we just don't have time for that competitive banter that's just...
Yeah.
It's just not the right way to do business.
It doesn't sell anything.
My
it
favorite
doesn't sell
example of this is iPhone and Samsung. So this is in 2000. I'll tell you when it was. 2013. Samsung launched a gigantic campaign. It was with their Galaxy, 3 or whatever it was at the time, and they had this giant campaign. And the whole campaign, the ads, they did TV, they did Google, they did Facebook, they did everything you could possibly do at the time. And the whole thing was, this is our new phone, and this is why it's better than the iPhone type of thing. And when you look at the statistics from it, their sales, they met a certain number, whatever that happened to be. And they achieved their goal. And then iPhone sold 3 and 4 times as much, even though they were spending less money on their marketing, because all the while, iPhone's whole strategy was, there's a great book on this. David, what's the name of that book? I always talk about it, and I can't ever remember. The Apple Experience. Thanks, David. The Apple Experience, a great book. It talks about Apple's marketing method. Apple's marketing method, instead of going outside in and saying, this is our phone, it is great because, and then it'll make you feel this way, Apple goes inside out. So it'll go, do you want to feel like you're in control of your life, or have fun, or be super hip and cool and from California, and, this is Apple, And lo and behold, what's the most valuable company in the world? Apple. So it's kind of an interesting, roundabout way to think about marketing.
Deliver what you promise.
Mm-hmm.
What is your promise, and then deliver it.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it's about, what do our customers need?
Yeah.
What do their customers need? And, going back old school, just be a person of your word. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so I think if you identify a promise that really has value for people and then deliver on it, you execute, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And so if you can do that and not worried about, as you said in the case of Samsung and Apple, then you're going to have more value. And people are going to see that. They're going to recognize it. They're going to look for you.
Yeah.
They're going to feel it. Mm-hmm. And they're going to absolutely know that you care.
Yeah.
There are times we do stuff that we don't get paid for, that some companies would.
Yeah.
But it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Getting back to the basics of doing the right things is kind of what we're about at Stratus.
Yeah. One of his favorite examples, the lady that does our commercial insurance, awesome person, but his favorite example of any marketing with that exact story is that basically he came in and did an audit for her. Turned out that we really couldn't do anything that she wanted, or whatever it was.
She couldn't afford what we were doing at the time, but somebody was ripping her off really bad.
Okay.
So basically they had this, they were just looking at her Google My Business, which is an area that, I don't know if you know anything about Google My Business, but it's literally a page about Google that shows what your business is.
Right.
They were looking at this page, looking at the analytics of that page by clicking one button, walking her through what her organic stuff was, and then getting off the call and collecting a $400 a month check.
Oh, wow.
It was nothing. I mean, they were literally just provided, just like, it's almost like reading.
It was
reading
so bad.
You know
She dropped it the next month and nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so she's been a great referral agent to us,
Yeah.
you know, because we just try to provide value for her and give her a good experience type of thing.
You know, that's what we've seen a lot of that in the last few months.
Oh, I bet.
And we've seen it in business with the pandemic, people taking advantage of others with price gouging and things of that nature. I've had a couple companies that have worked with others and have paid very high prices for the sanitation services that they received. And I've had some companies call and say, well, what about this? And I said, you know what? Why don't we come out and tell you what Stratus will do?
Yeah.
We'll show you the Stratus way and how we will provide the service and the quality that you need. And then here's what that may cost you and let them run with that. But it's been some interesting and some very tough stories that I've had to deal with on the phone and some very hurt individuals that felt very much taken advantage of.
Oh, yeah.
When those come in, you simply have to respond that, let us talk about what Stratus can provide for you.
Yeah.
And when we talk about that Stratus difference and we provide them with a proposal for a specific scope of work that's unique to that business, they usually walk away satisfied.
Yeah.
Have you alleviated the hurt feelings? Not necessarily, but you've given them hope that if I ever have an issue where I need help, I have a source to go to.
Yeah, you got a person.
If you can do that just as you did before, and that's business that I didn't get because the guy's already had it serviced.
Sure.
But he'll remember that and he'll share that with others.
Yeah.
And the word of mouth is still the most powerful marketing tool on the planet.
Yeah.
When people start to share and tell their experiences that they have with other companies and other brands.
One of my favorite quotes, maybe it's just because we're in the marketing space, but the quote is, the best marketing you can ever do is a good job. Just do a good job for people, But it's you learn a lot of interesting lessons in life through just trying to do a good job and doing the right thing for people, Well, Thomas, that's pretty much our time for today. If somebody needs to get their business cleaned or sanitized or even needs some consulting service, how do they get a hold of you?
A couple ways. They can reach out to us on the website at stratusbuildingsolutions.com, or they can contact our office 704-594-5941, and we'll be there to help.
That sounds amazing. I always like to sign off with a funny question. I can't really think of something funny about cleaning. I don't know.
Nastiest thing they've had to clean.
Nastiest thing you've had to clean. That's from David in the background. David is the one that came up with this. What's the nastiest thing you've had to clean? Don't say the name of the business, please. Oh, God, he's shaking his head. Do I need to leave the room?
You might want to leave the room.
All right.
Let's
hear it.
I have to be careful with that one.
Okay, all right.
I'll give you two.
Okay. You get to choose.
There's always the restroom, a men's restroom involved.
Yeah.
So I can leave
Always
it at
men's
that.
restroom.
Always a men's restroom.
Yeah.
And probably the other part is the back house of some kitchens. I'll leave it at that. The back of the house of some kitchens.
Makes me want to go to restaurants a little bit more.
You know what? All restaurants do a pretty good job, but the detail clean has to happen.
Sure.
I've had one or two that were just
not
challenging.
detailed. Yeah,
they're just challenging, and but those are the ones that require the most work, and reasonably so because they're serving more people than anyone else out there.
For sure.
But all of those, we worked through those with Stratus, and they've come out much better on the better side of it.
That is so not for me. I watched the show Kitchen Nightmares, and you see all the just gross stuff and how they've they have chicken that's like 4 months expired and smells like rotten eggs and stuff in there, and I can only imagine what you've seen. Okay, let's sign off. Talk to you soon. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.